Greetings everyone. Here are the main points in the video. The desperate move of Moscow, the secret behind the new generation of unmanned stealth fleet, Counterattack. The expected clones that were hoped to turn the tide were completely wiped out overnight. The aerial ambush formation, the appearance of Phoenix, the Bajak-Tate scrap ship, and how Bihai, under the command of legendary technology expert Fast West Sehifaz Bezkresnov, cut off the enemy's information lifeline. The disaster at the Deadly Alley, the extreme exhaustion forced Russia's elite 0337 Airborne Regiment to retreat chaotically from the Kinburn Peninsula. Ukraine's disaster warfare revolution, how a country without any large warships could confine the mighty Black Sea Fleet thanks to ocean assassins, Sea Baby, and the monster Long-Soul Sea Titan, collecting the next 1,000 deadly coordinates, the plan to besiege the massive bridge project, and the fate of Russia's ghost fleet in the coming days. Welcome to the analysis program of Unmanned. Before we get into the content, we hope you can take a few seconds to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue. Thank you, dear viewers. From panic and chaos to the collapse of Kinburn, the Russian army is retreating and Ukraine is victorious. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the overall geopolitical chessboard of the Black Sea during the critical phase of the summer of 2000, the situation on the battlefield is witnessing life and death shifts as the Russian army gradually loses control along the vital defensive lines on the Crimean Peninsula and the southern strip of Ukraine. In order to salvage the situation and search for a final lifeline to cling to their influence, the Moscow military leadership has staked everything on the strategic Kinburn Spit, a narrow strip of land about 10 kilometers long. But with such a crucial position, one that can choke off maritime traffic heading inland, there is no way back. The Russian forces decided to play their final trump card on the maritime battlefield by deploying a fleet of advanced unmanned boats, tearing through the water at maximum speed toward the Ukrainian coast. They set up a specific sea route between southern Ochakov Bay and Kinburn Fortress. This attack fleet reflects an extraordinary effort, but also the desperation of Russian engineers as they copied the entire hydrodynamic structure. And the hull design was based on two lines of unmanned boats, Magusa and CBB, the so-called Sea Baby. The Ukrainians have created a revolution in modern naval warfare doctrine. Made from fiberglass and ultra-light composite materials, these boats have an extremely low profile, allowing them to skim just a few centimeters above the water's surface. They can easily evade detection by long-range radar systems. To maximize stealth capabilities, the hull is coated with a special matte black paint. It also features an exhaust system that releases gases deep underwater to completely fool thermal imaging systems. Leading the attack fleet are the new generation suicide boats called Okan, and especially the Skorupa variant. A unique stealth mothership concept hides FPV drones in its belly compartment, ready to launch them when approaching the shore. They are supported by marine assault units, including the heavy-load BK-10,000 boat variant, aiming to maximize operational flexibility. The entire fleet uses the Stalin satellite system to closely track targets entering the sealed valley. However, in a war where technology and information determine life and death, the calculations of the Kremlin encountered an impenetrable intelligence firewall from the other side. Ukraine's advanced surveillance network exposed this shadow operation from the very first moments, before it even had a chance to approach its target. High-altitude reconnaissance aircraft worked with a dense network of high-resolution acoustic sensors along the coastline. They continuously reported to headquarters about unusual underwater acoustic vibrations on the sea surface. This fact was quickly verified and confirmed by reputable independent media channels such as United 24. On the operational screens of the Ukrainian command, every change in speed and direction of the Russian fleet was closely monitored by the second, turning what the enemy hoped would be a surprise attack into a destruction scenario unknown to the Russian military. An aerial ambush formation. This masterful pincer-breaking battle was planned under the advisement of Best Press Note. Because the renowned military technology expert Flas is serving as a technology advisor to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. Instead of risking traditional surface vessels, which is easily targeted by enemy fire, the Southern Defense Forces proactively set up an aerial ambush using armed unmanned aerial vehicles, specifically the Bayraktar TB2 drones. With a flight altitude of over 4,800 meters and classified as medium to high altitude aerial equipment, the TB2 units tracked and completely isolated Russia's suicide boats from a distance of tens of kilometers in the Ochakip Bay area in the strategic Kinburn Strait. From the bellies of these iron birds, which can operate continuously for 27 hours, the Ukrainian military launched highly accurate, smart-guided munitions, striking directly at the Stalin antenna domes on the upper decks of the Russian boats. In just a moment, the information arteries connecting the Skalabar and Okan boats to the command center were completely severed, causing them to lose direction and spin wildly on the waves before being crushed and blown up by coordinated coastal artillery, turning into tragic fireballs and forever resting at the bottom of the deep Black Sea. The Odessa Tactical Group, through an announcement by its commander, Colonel Denis Nosov, confirmed that the Russian garrison at Kinburn Cape later fell into a disastrous and brutal situation when Ukraine's suicide drone swarms completely cut off all Russian supply routes to the peninsula. Facing ammunition and fuel shortages and losing all hope of defense, the occupying troops were forced to evacuate, partially in chaos. A historic and heroic moment was clearly marked when the blue and yellow flag of Ukraine once again proudly flew over Kinburn Cape. The feat of breaking the pincers of the Russian drone boat attack by the Turkish-supplied Bayraktar TB2 UAVs was not just an ordinary defensive battle, but a decisive move for the entire southern front. The TB2 system's ability to intercept was of vital importance, because the core objective of the Russian suicide drone fleet was nothing less than to inject a wave of total chaos along the vulnerable coastline of Mykolaiv and Kherson provinces, adjacent to the strategic Kinburn Spit south of Ochakov. The Moscow Military Command had ambitions to use these copied unmanned boats to destroy Ukraine's coastal observation posts. Simultaneously, they launched suicide attacks to cripple Ochakov port's key defense infrastructure. It should be analyzed that the port of Ochakov is a critically important geopolitical hub, located at the confluence of the Dnipro and Southern Bug rivers, just before they flow into the deep Black Sea. It controls the narrow sea passage that opens up all shipping routes into the interior. It used to be the command center of the U.S. Navy. This strategic port serves as one of the key military bases, helping Kiev protect the Black Sea grain corridor. Without the timely intervention of TB2 drones, the Russian military could have turned this sensitive area into a real inferno. In other words, Ukraine's operations saved a dozen fronts from an extremely dangerous setback. If the raid had succeeded, Russia's suicide boats would have penetrated deep into the Ochakov military base, destroyed Ukraine's inland support warships, and turned the trade route in sea lane at the river mouth into a deadly and risky area. This means that the Black Sea grain corridor, the economic lifeline connecting Ukraine to the global market, would once again face the risk of being choked off by a Russian naval blockade. Even more dangerously, a victory at sea for Moscow would immediately relieve and lift the suffocating pressure that Kiev has persistently imposed on Russia's supply lines through the Kinburn corridor for many weeks. Logistical disaster at the fatal dead end. In reality, the occupying forces on this special peninsula are experiencing a logistical collapse and a chaotic retreat. The only supply line for the Kinburn corridor, which was already a narrow strip, has now turned into a deadly dead end completely within the destructive range of Ukrainian artillery. Kiev's medium-range suicide drone teams continuously circle and strike, burning Russian ammunition depots and fuel tankers before they can reach the front lines. The bridge systems on the strategic M17 and M18 highways connecting Kherson and the Krim Peninsula have been systematically destroyed, rendering Russian supply convoys ineffective right on their routes. Even the 337th Airborne Regiment, one of Moscow's elite guard units in the area, was forced to withdraw from the northern sectors of the peninsula due to being unable to access basic food supplies and clean drinking water. Top-secret intelligence reports were released from the pro-Ukrainian partisan network called ATEX, headquartered in Kyiv. They revealed that Russian soldiers on the Kinburn line are becoming completely exhausted, both physically and mentally. The Russian High Command orchestrated this secret amphibious raid, most likely with the aim of facilitating a tactical withdrawal, while also attempting to punch a hole in Ukraine's solid defensive shield. However, Kiev's modern intelligence doctrine, combined with the high combat effectiveness of the TB2 drones, crushed Russia's last major counterattack effort from the very beginning, burying it beneath the cold waters of the Black Sea. From a broader perspective, global military experts are analyzing this event to explain a major geopolitical paradox. How could the Russian Federation, which possesses one of the most powerful naval fleets on the planet, suffer such a humiliating tactical defeat in a closed basin like the Black Sea? Even though Ukraine does not possess any frigates or large cruisers, it has managed to effectively confine Russia's Black Sea fleet right in its own home ports by focusing all its efforts on asymmetric warfare tactics. This success has completely undermined traditional naval warfare doctrines, affirming that power now belongs to cheap, easily replaceable unmanned equipment, supported by artificial intelligence developed entirely by Ukraine. Among these, Ukraine's 385th Specialized Unmanned Maritime Vehicle Brigade has made military history as the first unmanned boat brigade to appear on the battlefield. A completely new military structure is rewriting the rules of naval warfare. Ukraine's brilliant operational revolution continues as Kyiv trains and establishes such elite brigades to thwart all ambitions of the Russian Navy in the Black Sea. And that's not all, because Ukraine now possesses a formidable fleet of unmanned boats, with power far surpassing the early days of the conflict, ready to shift from defense to naval counteroffensive. The clearest evidence is the Maguza V5 boat line, a marvel of aerodynamic design with a length of 5 meters powered by a water jet engine that allows it to cut through waves at a maximum speed of 42 knots and an operational range of up to 800 kilometers. This vessel carries a military-grade explosive warhead weighing 320 kilograms hidden deep within its hull, with an average production cost of only $250,000. These small vessels have created an unprecedented cost-effectiveness ratio in economics and military terms, as they can sink massive Russian warships worth $50 to $60 million in just a few short seconds. Not stopping there, the Sea Baby boat line, commissioned for the Ukrainian security agency, are truly professional ship-killer assassins with an operational range exceeding 1,000 kilometers and the capacity to carry up to 1 ton of explosives. Ukraine's talented engineers have integrated into this platform laser-guided anti-tank missiles, Svel thermobaric rocket launchers, and even an improved variant of the Z-73 anti-aircraft missile specialized for hunting helicopters. Especially barrages of thermobaric rockets fired from Sea Baby boats have provided tremendous fire support for ground forces, directly breaking into Russia's reinforced concrete bunkers right on the Kinburn sandbar from the sea. Facing this revolutionary technological superiority, Russian unmanned boats like Skalupa or Okan, hastily developed, have ended up as powerless and outdated faulty copies from the moment they were born. The Kremlin fully understands that even billion-dollar warships carefully hidden in the farthest corners of Novorossiysk port are no longer safe from Ukraine's long-range swarm attacks. A good night's sleep has become an impossible luxury for the commanders of the Black Sea Fleet, as every small wave appearing on the horizon could signal a deadly raid, sending a floating fortress to the bottom of the sea. The next major target for Kyiv will be a massive-scale attack campaign around the strategic Crimean Bridge, aiming to completely sever the connection between the Crimean Peninsula and mainland Russia. At the same time, the illegal Ghost Fleet oil tankers and commercial vessels transporting military supplies for Russia in the Black Sea have also become top targets for these unmanned night assassins with an ever-expanding strike range. Ukraine does not limit itself to surface vehicles. They have begun mass production of unmanned underwater vessels in the Toloka and Marika series, weapons capable of moving completely stealthily beneath the deep sea. From the compact Toloka TLK 150 model to the massive giant-sized unmanned supervessel TLK 1000. They possess the ability to lie in wait and ambush on the seabed for weeks at a time without leaving any sonar trace. In addition, the Sea Titan Ocean Monster, with a payload capacity of 1,000 tons, is specially designed to directly destroy solid bridge pillars using a massive explosive charge of up to 1 ton and is controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. These giant underwater robots can stay motionless like smart naval mines on the continental shelf, waiting for targets to pass overhead before launching a devastating attack. The peak combat effectiveness of this technology was demonstrated when the Sea Baby unmanned submarine successfully attacked a Russian Kilo-class submarine right inside the port of Novorossiysk, marking an unprecedented milestone in the history of modern naval warfare. Amid the tense situation around the Crimean Peninsula, the Kremlin was forced to find every possible way to stop Kyiv's systematic offensive momentum. To deal with unpredictable dangers from both the surface and the depths below, the Russian military began establishing strict multi-layered defensive barriers along the Crimean coastline and beneath the Kerch Bridge. Massive steel nets were stretched underwater along the entire length of the bridge. Old transport ships and heavy barges were deliberately sunk around the bridge piers to create artificial obstacles to block suicide boats. On the surface, high-speed patrol boats of Project V2 12.200 Soban continuously patrol day and night, ready to use heavy machine guns to attack any strange object that emerges from the sea. High-precision active sonar systems surround the entrances and exits of the port, working in coordination with the Pantsir air defense complexes deployed along the coastline to keep the sea surface constantly under strict fire control. The Russians are taking desperate measures to block all routes into Crimea. However, combat history has proven that even the most solid defenses can hardly completely prevent the sophisticated raids of unmanned boats. The leadership in Moscow understands this well, and they are racing against time to prepare appropriate retaliatory measures. Russia is spending billions from its defense budget to develop autonomous maritime programs and independent AI software. However, the Russian military's cumbersome bureaucracy and technological lag, caused by crippling Western sanctions, prevent them from becoming a worthy rival to Ukraine's dynamic, ever-evolving ecosystem. After each campaign, Kyiv thoroughly analyzes Russia's countermeasures and immediately delivers hardware and software updates to the front lines to neutralize them within just a few days. The Black Sea Fleet, once the proud symbol since the days of Tsar Peter the Great, is now humiliatingly trapped in port, controlled by joystick commands from the laptops of young Ukrainian engineers. So in your opinion, with Russia's absolute protection, how will Ukraine deliver the decisive blow to completely destroy the bridge?